Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard. It is time for Sunday Night Live, which is now back on Sunday nights. Woohoo! So, if Scott, you could do me a favor, if you could type in the chat box that we are live and to press the button above or to refresh the page, that would be great. Because it is Sunday night, and it is time for Sunday Night Live, and we have a special guest tonight, and that is John Sorbone. So I'll be introducing John Sorbone here in a little bit. But I'm looking forward to Sunday night being on Sunday nights again. But more importantly than that, I'm also looking forward to it being live again. So I want to thank everybody. Well, Scott was having a baby, while I was taking care of throat stuff, for putting up with our irregular schedule and our recorded attempts and things like that. But we are back. We are back with a new format for the next 12 months. Every Sunday night, or every first Sunday night, we're going to do 90 minutes of live education and experience to give you an opportunity to experience hypnosis, to learn about hypnosis, and to hear from some great guests. And since we're going to a longer format, next first Sunday of the month, we will try to line up between 2 and 3 guests every Sunday night. So that's the goal. But anyway, it's great to have everybody here tonight, and I'm joined by our special guest, John Sorbone, who I'll introduce here in a few minutes. And, of course, my co-host, the lovely Skippy Sandland, the new father of...
Lincoln Palmer Sandland. Fatherhood is awesome. Yeah, thanks to everybody for your patience while Richard and I were away dealing with our stuff. I'm loving being a father. I haven't slept in a long, long time. I am always tired, and that's okay. It is absolutely worth it. And like Richard said, I'm excited about this new format change where instead of doing an hour or doing 45 minutes every week, we're going to do an hour and a half the first Sunday of every month, and we'll get multiple guests. We're going to jam more information in and have a lot more fun with it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to the more live interaction with you guys in the chat room, being able to spend more time doing Q&A with you guys there. I think that's always one of the most fun things we do here, so I'm looking forward to that, and that's what I've got. I'm going to turn it back to you, Richard, so you can introduce our guest and your longtime friend, John.
And every Sunday night we get together for the same purpose, or every first Sunday of the month we get together for the same purpose, and that is to learn about hypnosis, to share some ideas, to experience hypnosis. Since we're going to make this a longer class, feel free to ask us any questions along the way, and you can always ask our lovely guest any questions. Tonight we are joined by hypnotist John Sorbone. And John Sorbone, before I introduce him, let me tell you a quick story about him. It was, I think, 2006. We were at a convention on the East Coast, and I had never met John before. John had never met me before, but we found ourselves in an elevator talking as if we had known each other our entire lives. And our friendship blossomed from that elevator ride on forward, and we have traveled the world together doing hypnosis, both stage hypnosis, clinical hypnosis, sharing ideas on books that we've written, helping people to experience success in a number of different areas of life. And there is probably nobody who I enjoy working with other than Scott Sandland at the same level as John Sorbone, and of course Kelly Woods, and of course Roger Moore, and of course a couple other people too. But John Sorbone is awesome. And so before I completely slaughter the introduction, I'm just going to turn this over to John and say, John, who are you and why is it important that we know?
Well, who are any of us? But anyway, the bottom line here is I am a professional hypnotist, as most people watching this would probably know. I've been practicing forms of self-hypnosis since I'm about 3 years old. When my parents would say, go pick up your room, I would first lay down, deep breathe, and then put myself into a trance state, then get up and clean the room. So throughout my young life, I did that, and when I went to play with the children down the block, they had sore legs and a sore back from cleaning their room. As I got a little bit older, and I didn't because I had hypnotized myself. Long about grammar school somewhere, kids would start coming up to me, asking me questions about they wanted to run away from home, and home life was not compatible with them, and whatever way they expressed that. And I would externalize what I had been doing on me with them. And when I got finished and they opened their eyes, they no longer wanted to run away from home. In high school, it was run away or commit suicide in some cases. Same thing in college. And it wasn't every day, certainly. Sometimes it wasn't even every week. But quite a bit, I was doing what seems to be rudimentary private sessions, and I was getting results even back then. Long about college age, I started to do some group stuff and get people to relax a little bit. And then in the corporate world after college, I was put into a couple of different sales training programs. And in those sales training programs, high-pressure jobs to sell, including a major insurance carrier that I work for, they fast-tracked me to be a manager. And they threw me into a training program, which in 3 months they had me teaching. So what else was I going to do in the training program but get people to manage stress, motivate sales, and go out and sell while feeling more stress-free. And when they opened their eyes, they went out and sold and felt really wonderful. Some of the sales calls were rather challenging. Sometimes they were in rough areas, places where I look at it now and I'm thinking, yeah, it's the silliness of youth that you go into places like this. I could have easily been killed a few times. But from that, I took these workshops out to the public that I started to do. And eventually I developed quite a following. Sometimes it'd be 5 or 6 or 7 people. And other times I was getting hundreds of people showing up, 3 and 4 and 5, sometimes even 700 people showing up for spiritual empowerment meditation and other things I was doing. And after a workshop, a fellow walked up to me and said, "You are one heck of a hypnotist." Jokingly, I responded, "A hypno what?" And he said to me, "Come learn and train with me. I have a hypnosis school." And he gave me some kind of a price, and I said to him, "Are you kidding?" Which is less than I get for a private session now, by the way.
Inflation.
And he said, "No, you're comped in." He said, "You're comped. It's free. Just come in. You have a following." That was the first of about 44 hypnosis certifications I have. Since then, I've hypnotized well over 180,000 people at this point in my career, very conservative estimate. I do stage shows globally. I do clinical session work. I have been doing session work since the 1980s. And I teach at leading hypnosis conferences, including HTLive, which I'm very honored to be a part of. I look forward to seeing people there over the summer.
Now, what are you teaching on this summer at Hypno Thoughts Live? What's the class that you're teaching?
I'm teaching a 2-day class on speed trance post-conference, which I just completed a class today, just a few hours ago. I'm probably one of the harder working people, as you guys are as well, in the profession. I did a 2-day class, 10 o'clock in the morning till early evening, and did a show last night. I went out and did a show for a religious group in Brooklyn and came back and did another class today. Speed trance is a series of induction techniques I have personally developed and created. I created my 60th, that's 60 induction today. Actually, yesterday, pardon me. Somebody misread something called an arm lock induction I created, and she thought it said alarm clock. So I created an alarm clock induction for her and dropped her into hypnosis in a split second or two. So I won't be happy with the induction list that I have until I break 100. You know, I've got 40 more to go, so there's a few more classes that I'll come up with things. But speed trance, if it's done properly, can be a way of hypnotizing people in fractions of a second. I've been clocked as fast as 1/5 of a second, inducing trance in people where they drop down kind of shoulders to knees. And it's very useful for a wide variety of hypnotic techniques, including clinical, including stage work, trauma cases, if you're on site for a first responder, for example. I've trained a lot of hypnotists in this. And through my work with Richard and the DVD set we made back in 2007, Speed Trance, which went viral, there are copies of that globally. And on YouTube, obviously, all over the world. So because of the work I've done with that, the whole world knows.
Millions of hits on our speed trance videos. But now a lot of people know you as the speed trance guy, the guy who does instant rapid inductions. But you use traditional inductions on a regular basis. I've listened to most of your audio MP3s, and it's very classical in its traditional induction. And in your clinical sessions, I know that you use traditional inductions as well. And one of the things that you've written a book on recently is power hypnosis. And that's what I'd kind of like to focus on tonight, because there are a lot of elements related to the power hypnosis that I think are really interesting for bringing sort of the skills of a stage hypnotist, if you will, the rapport building, but the quick action to the clinical office. And you do a lot of clinical work, don't you? You see clients on a regular basis.
I've been doing that since the 1980s, yes. lots and lots of private session clients, lots and lots of huge corporations that have hired me to help them quit smoking, lose weight, reduce stress, motivate sales. Fortune 100 and 500 companies, for example, have hired me to do a wide variety of different workshop programs for them. And even groups of people have come in to see me at various points. So yes, I have a huge background in clinical hypnosis. That's the first certifications I had. I was a certified hypnotherapist back in the day, when in my state I could use the term therapist. These days we kind of go with clinical hypnotist. And most of my work that I do during the week is clinical hypnosis sessions with people who come in here from all walks of life. My top 7 private clinical sessions would be smoking cessation, weight reduction, stress management, a better night's sleep, overcoming a fear, surviving a relationship breakup, and doing better in schoolwork and testing and study habits. So that seems to be my top 7 that I do.
Now, we have embedded here in our Sunday Live class, we actually have a chat room down below, so you can feel free to join our chat room. Now, the great thing about the new chat room is this. One, I have some administrator privileges I didn't have before, but the cool thing about it is that you can actually sign in with Facebook if you want to. You can sign in, that way people can find you and you can chat on Facebook through this app. You can choose to sign in through Google if you want to. That's awesome. Google likes to keep track of you also. You can choose to sign in with Twitter if you want to and use your Twitter tweet what's going on in your world, or you can avoid all of those interconnections and simply choose to create a Chatwing account where, of course, they won't have a clue who you are because they've never heard of you before. But you can sign into that chat box right below here, and you can ask me a question, Scott Sandlin a question, John Simone a question. I know that many of you are familiar with John's work, and so maybe you've been thinking to yourself, I always wish that I had a chance to ask John Simone this question. So feel free to type in the chat box, and I will ask it to him.
And John, let me follow up on what you were just talking with Richard about private sessions, and you said you're doing some contract work with large corporations and stuff like that, or private practice work and all that. Forget groups and forget stage, forget that stuff. Just for a moment, how many individual sessions, just one-on-one, are you doing in a given, on an average week? Because I'm sure your schedule fluctuates dramatically depending on where you are and if when you're traveling. But when you're at home, when you're in the flow of seeing clients, what's a normal number of individual sessions versus number of group sessions that you do on a weekly basis?
It really does fluctuate. You're right on the money with that, but it could be anywhere from a handful to over 10. It depends. But I do a full 2.5-hour session with the people who come in here. So there's a lot of legwork that works this way. And what I do, what I've come to call it is I design what I call a masterpiece session for these people. What it is, I sit down and take in via email weak spots from these people and sit down and pre-write a 2-page script of suggestions, single-spaced for these people before they come in, custom tailored to their weak spots. So therefore, when they come in, most of what they're getting from me, unless it's something more run-of-the-mill like weight loss or smoking, which I've been refining now since the 1980s, where I couple that stuff together with what they've given me. But if it's something unusual, I will write them an entire private session, which is how my first 2 script books became script books. It's a combination of technique I've provided, and basically, when I write the scripts or I write the suggestions, as my psychologically based friends sometimes call it, I'm in state. I put myself into a hypnotic state. And some people have seen me do this. I was just doing this in the workshop a few hours ago, where I kind of go into this hypnotic state and kind of almost like channel information through myself. The words just sort of pour out of me. And there's a wide variety of techniques and various methods I've come up to use over the years. And it's not even always conscious. It's more of a subconscious flow of information. Sometimes the sentences come out a little backwards. They sound almost Yoda-ish, This for yourself you will do, this kind of thing, because the subconscious mind is going to grab that, flip it around, and do something different with it. So there's a wide variety of different things that will pour out of me. And what I've done from all these decades of doing this work, with a career straddling 4 decades professionally, is in the book Power Hypnosis. I've designed a lot of these ideas and techniques that I found to work the very best for the clients, to take our profession and create a paradigm shift. This book is about the future of hypnosis. It's about taking the sessions that we're doing out of the 1950s and 60s, or 40s in some cases. I know people who are using script books or scripts that were written in the 1940s, and take this stuff to a new level that are going to turn around the way hypnosis is done, and moreover, basically kick this into a different register where parallel professions that might be using hypnosis are not going to be doing anything near what we're doing in the future, because the specialty that we are as hypnotists is going to elevate what's going on way beyond anything that can be compared from the past. And that's what this whole idea of what I'm doing, writing script books, and this new book, Power Hypnosis, is all about.
Now, let me talk about scripts for a minute. It's interesting that you touched on that. I suppose you and I talk a lot. Your script books are among my favorites. Your script books are probably on this bookshelf next to me or over on my desk, because I actually use them with my clients. And the reason why, and people are surprised to hear me say that I go into my sessions with a script. In fact, I'm actually doing next week a class on writing your own hypnosis scripts. People are surprised to hear me say that I use hypnosis scripts that I've written for my clients. But you do the exact same thing. And the reason why I do that is real simple. I don't read them the script start to finish. So I want to make sure I cover everything that's important to them. If I'm going to spend time with multiple clients in a day, I need to have that for my own memory as a guide to truly give them what they want. And you bring those written scripts that you prepare for your clients into your sessions as well, huh?
Absolutely. What I do is I write what I call a masterpiece session for them. I sit down, I go into state, or I go into hypnosis, I sit there, I design the whole thing. Years ago I used to type it, which kind of got, let's face it, our fingers are fast, but especially from the Northeast in New York City, nothing keeps up with his mouth. So I use voice dictation software now, and I kind of speak to the computer. Most of the time it gets most of the words I'm saying clearly. It's been learning my voice for a long time. And then from that, I go back and I start playing with it. I edit it. I move paragraphs around. If I think it needs an extra sentence here or there. And by the time I get done, the script I write for that session can take me 2 or 3 hours to get it done. But by the time the person comes in here and I do this session, and I live record an MP3, and I email it to them, the vast majority of my clients see me once or twice, and then send a load of friends in here. And again, to get back to Scott's question from before, that can run sporadically. Sometimes, like after Christmas, when money is tight, quite often it's a little slower. January, February, they're paying credit card bills, and then it starts to pick up again because they're back on their feet a little bit, and it's time to get things going. You know, summertime weight loss in the spring, and getting off those cigarettes. And I'm almost evangelical about this. I've seen people smoking in the street. I'll just go up and start talking to them and hand them a card. I've even gotten people off cigarettes, like waitresses in restaurants. In the summertime, I have company clothing that has my logo on it. And they're like, "You're a hypnotist, I got to kick these cigarettes." And if I think they haven't got much money or whatever, I'll just put them out in a restaurant. I've gotten people off cigarettes permanently in 5 minutes because I just put them out really fast and I deliver a lot of suggestions. Sometimes I'm very far away from where these people live. And with the advent of Skype, I'm now working all over the world. So it's just about getting out there and doing this. Now, honestly, as professionals, eating, breathing, and sleeping this, it's a mistake. We need to be out there doing this.
In one of your first script books, you created, I think it was about a chapter on session optimizers. And when you said you get people off cigarettes for life in 5 minutes, there's actually a YouTube video that I made back in 2007, and it's got over 300,000 hits on it. And it's amazing because I actually created it to teach hypnotists how to do a quick smoking cessation session. And I used one of your session optimizers in there, and that is that you can release anything either known or unknown, which has become one of my favorite lines right now, through the soles of your feet and into the core of the earth. That's from your very first script book, one of those session optimizing sessions. But what's amazing is on that YouTube video, literally thousands of people have commented, and one of the more frequent comments is, "Oh my gosh, I watched this video and I haven't smoked in a week, I haven't smoked in a month, I haven't smoked in a year." And the guy who was actually in the video actually sent me an email. I hadn't seen or talked to him in 6 years, and I think you were actually there when I did the session. He was the DJ at that bar where we filmed Speed Trance, and he said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm still smoke-free," and that was 6 years later. So how do you craft those session optimizers? And what difference do you think they make in your success as a clinical hypnotist?
Well, what I normally do when I lay out a session, once I have it written, is I will figure out some kind of an induction. They come in, we build rapport. They generally, in this big chair right here that you're seeing me in, this is a chair and a half size. You can put 2 people in here technically. I've had a couple of friends that have sat next to me to see if this works, and it does. And from that, I will, after the pre-talk and everything that I do, I will basically do some kind of very, very deep trance level induction to get them in really, really deep. If it's a backup session, say sessions 2, 3, or 4, I'll do a speed trance induction, get them out really fast, really quick, if I'm not making a recording. And then from that, I will read that masterpiece script type of thing that I wrote for them. And then every session I do has at least 7 session optimizing suggestions at the end of it, minimum. What do they do? Well, let me go through some of this. When I was a little boy, to quote what you just mentioned from my first book, and it's actually in the new book as well, Power Hypnosis, one of the prayers I heard in church, in the Catholic Church as a little boy, was, Heavenly Father, protect us from things known and unknown to us. And one day, doing hypnosis, I had gone to a mass, I think somebody got married, or I think maybe a baptism or something, and I heard that prayer again, and I said, you know, that's the ultimate thing for the subconscious mind to use as an engine to create change. Let's face it, the subconscious is doing possibly thousands of things at the same time, and we're not aware of where half of the stuff came from, or more, probably a lot more than half, probably the majority of it. And these issues that people come in with, they don't know where this stuff came from. Even if, I mean, a lot of hypnotists that will regress people back to when they think some issue started or something. And in standard talk therapy situations, many of the people are trying to therapeutically get back to some traumatizing event or something. But say an issue, a trauma, a blockage occurred at 12:15 on a Tuesday 22 years ago. Even if you regress somebody and that trauma is so raw, the most they're going to do is give you 12:17, not 12:15. You're never going to get there. Yet, the beauty of what that suggestion is about has to do with the fact that you don't necessarily need to know where the problem is coming from. You don't need to know it. You just need to get the subconscious mind to get in there in ways known and unknown, to forgive it, release it, let it go. And I put other metaphors in there, like as if energy is draining out to the soles of your feet into the core of the earth, far, far away from you, both now, always, and forever, as you enter a brand new masterpiece chapter of your life. Think about this for a second. What client coming to see a hypnotist today, tomorrow, 1,000 years from now, doesn't want to start a masterpiece chapter of their life? How many people feel stuck that they're not living at their optimum capacity? The bottom line is to get that masterpiece chapter of their life going. So I will use that particular optimizing suggestion at the end of almost every session. It's one of my favorites. How about people reinforcing? You know, many hypnotists are looking for ways to get the sessions to reinforce themselves, or various suggestions to reinforce. Well, one of the ideas in the book Power Hypnosis is self-perpetuating, self-adapting suggestions. Now that sounds really complicated. Ooh, spooky, mysterious, what does that mean? Well, what if suggestions weren't things that were static? What if they were fluid? What if every time some triggering other optimizing suggestion went off, a body movement, a sound that they might hear, everything that they did instantly reinforced that suggestion, and when that behavior was finally at an end, how about the idea that their life continues to improve in every other aspect that needs improvement? How about you become not only an expert in what you're doing, but perhaps the one who's pulling rabbits out of a hat, the miracle worker hypnotist, the one who's able to get results, not just for what they came for, but basically other aspects of their life begin to flourish as well. So what I'm doing in the book Power Hypnosis and in these optimizing ideas and techniques I've created is the idea that right across the board, a person who comes to see a hypnotist who's trained or is utilizing these materials to get out there and do exactly what it is they need to do, not only to quit smoking, not only to lose weight, but to make other lifestyle improvement changes or to create forgiveness. Let's talk about forgiveness for a second. It's been my experience with this many years of working that people always will come into a session and talk about if it's something in their family or a relationship, for example, or surviving a breakup, which is a big session, whether it's a marriage or just a ending or divorce or just a male-female relationship, whatever kind of relationship they're in, even a business partnership. that they have to forgive the other person. The forgiveness really doesn't lie so much with the other person generally as it does with the individual themselves, and self-forgiveness and the walking around. I remember the late Chris Farley punching himself in the stomach in those sketches going, why did I say that? And things that people second guess and judge themselves about. So part of what I do as well is work on the idea of forgiving it across time, past, present, future. Should any other emotions come up, they are more easily resolved, forgiven, and moved forward from permanently and forever in a way that's self-adaptive, self-creative, and self-reinforcing in ways known and unknown.
Hey, John, I want to mention, by the way, that they can buy your book on Amazon, and it's $40 on Amazon.com, or they can go to your website and they can buy it for $39. Or right above this chat box, if you're interested in power hypnosis, I convinced John to let me sell it for $9 whole bucks on the Hypno Store just this week. I'm going to send out an email tomorrow, but that's only going to be here this week because he's going to quickly make me go back to the $40 Amazon John Cervone price. But it's right above here, and it's the full version of the book. So it is available right here on the Hypno Store, right on the main page of the Hypno Store for a whopping $9, which is a heck of a bargain. Hey, John, Heather asked what I thought was a really good question, and then I have a really good idea because you're known in your stage hypnosis shows for speed rounds. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do some speed rounds, and I'm going to give you 20 seconds to answer a whole host of hypnosis questions that I have. So you're going to get 20 seconds to answer each question. My hope here is that your best answer from the subconscious rises to the top, which I have a feeling will probably happen here. But Heather asked a great question. That is, all right, let's say you bring a script into a session, but if the client's subconscious mind goes in a different direction halfway through the session, how do you either herd them back onto the script or change the script on the fly so that you're meeting the client at their needs? I think a lot of new hypnotists just try to get through the whole script, and there are ways to herd them back onto the script or change the script on the fly when you notice a client's need. How do you know if that's a need, and how do you go about doing that?
One of the ways I eliminate that shift or that need in my session work is I talk about the idea in the suggestions early on that all of this is being done to have their subconscious mind become their ally and their best benefactor, beneficiary of a better life. And what I do is I tame or reverse away the adversarial nature of the subconscious mind. Most clients we're working with have an adversarial subconscious mind. Their subconscious mind has been set up in such a way through life experience, family commitments, situations with parents to become an adversary. I now tell them it's okay for their subconscious mind. In fact, it's preferred for their subconscious mind. In fact, they now know that their subconscious mind is now their greatest ally. Shake their head yes for me because they know it's true. If they're nodding their head yes in hypnosis, the subconscious mind is now agreeing it's okay to be friends. And once that becomes their greatest source of support, that mind is not going to be making left turns and right turns. Even if it does, it'll only be moving into areas of benefit to them where the suggestions are going to make some kind of adaptive sense for the facilitation of change. Does that make sense?
Yep, that makes a lot of sense. That's awesome.
Let me ask, before you get into the lightning round questions, let me ask kind of a tangent follow-up to that. Because you're talking about a 2 or 2.5 hour session. You spent time doing emails, scripting in advance. I mean, obviously you're putting a lot of work into that session with that client. What's the average number of times you see a client? I mean, are you usually doing one-offs? Are you seeing a client 2 times, 100 times? What's kind of average for you for something like weight loss? Okay.
Generally, I'm doing 1 or 2 sessions. I did a session years ago with okay. There was a little bit of a snafu there technically.
A little glitch, but you're unglitched, so you're free to go.
Okay. Quite often with a client, I'll do 1 or 2 sessions. But here's how I circumvent multiple sessions. I had a guy here at Staten Island about 10 or 12 years ago, yonder, sometime in the past, I forget exactly when, who was over 600 pounds, and I had to go see him at his house. He was in a custom-built wheelchair, or he was in a custom-built walker, because his body weight, people's bodies cannot sustain 600 pounds. Their skeletal structures, their knees, for example, their joints can't hold that. And this guy was close to death. And when I did the intake, I found out, because of a high-stress job that he had, in one of the many various exchanges that exist, you know, for dealing stocks or commodities or whatever it was, that he owned some seats on this thing, and he was under stress, and he was eating 48-ounce steaks every night. I could barely choke down a 24-ounce steak. He was eating twice as much, and he was still hungry afterwards. He was drinking 3 and 4 quart-sized glasses of beer to wash this down. So obviously there was some major issues with this guy. And back in those days, I was making reinforcements. But back then, all we had was the famous handy-dandy audio cassette. You remember those? You know, if you're 20 years old, you may not know those. If you're a little bit older, like a couple of us might be a couple of minutes older than 20, you might remember the handy-dandy cassettes. So I did one session with him. I did some follow-up on the phone with him. And some time went past. I kind of lost track of him. I got busy. And about 2 years later, I run into this guy, and here's how it happened. I'm walking through a parking lot. My mother was sick. I was going to pick up some groceries for her. And some guy says, John, as I'm walking through the parking lot. So everybody's John. I just keep walking, you know. And he says, John. I keep walking again. I figure his friend John, he's looking for. It's not me. I don't know who this guy is. And then he says, hypnotist. And I'm like, where? Oh, me. Okay, I got that. I turned around. And he said, do you know who I am? And I said, I'm very sorry, sir. I can meet 1,000 people a month or more. I don't remember. I remember a face usually, but not always a name. And he said to me, I'm so-and-so who you came to my house. It's about 2 years plus since you saw me. I now weigh around 300 pounds. Everybody thinks that I had gastric bypass surgery, but I keep telling them, no, it's hypnosis. They cannot believe I am half the man I used to be because of you. His joke, not mine. Okay? He lost half his body mass from one session and a follow-up phone call by using the recording I gave him. So in every session I do, I will charge New York City prices because I have to in order to stay in this marketplace and make a living. And then I make it reinforcement recording, live recorded on an MP3 recorder in the session. And part of my contract with the person is that they use the recording for 120 nights or more as needed as a pre-bed thing. And they're agreeing to this. And I make sure before they come to see me, they understand this. And some of them say to me, 120 nights, well, you haven't been gaining weight in the last 15 minutes. This is a lifetime thing that's been going on for you. You haven't been smoking cigarettes for like the last 15 minutes. You've been smoking for 40 years. That's not a high angle of deflection. You know, if you move a bullet this much over here, it's going to miss the target by many yards. If you move it near the target this much, it's only going to be this much. You need that high angle of deflection. So consequently, this guy has lost from one session and a follow-up phone call over 300 pounds. Every so often he sends me an email, says hello, and he's kept the weight off all these years. Sometimes people will come back for a touch-up, or say somebody comes in here to lose weight and then they want to take up exercise. So they want a weight loss and exercise thing, and I'll bring them in for that, and we'll do a backup session with that. Or some people who are executives tell me, can we do a shorter session that's not as lengthy on the recording so I can play it during lunch, and then I can play the other one at bedtime, and we'll do one of those. But basically speaking, many people do really great with me in 1 or 2 sessions, and some people, because of therapy models they've been involved in other professions, want to see me a little bit more often, and if that's the case, we'll do that, because I want to work within this frame of reference and a scope of familiarity they're comfortable with.
Awesome.
Great answer. Thank you.
Yeah. If you have any questions for John, type them in the chat box. I have a whole list of questions here. I'm going to do a little speed round with John. But John and I have worked together for many different years. We've done lots of stage hypnosis shows together, even one at HypnoThoughts Live, I think, 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
And we've brainstormed a lot on clinical hypnosis stuff and on writing books back and forth. Now, here's one of the things that's interesting. I think this is really important to point out. John and I actually have a completely different style. His scripts and his script books don't look anything like my scripts and my script books. Our technique in stage hypnosis is even a little bit different. He does power sessions for 2.5 hours with clients. I try to get him in and out the door in 30 minutes. There are a lot of differences, and yet you heard John speak about regression, and you rarely ever hear me talk about regression. And one of the things I like to point out here, when you hear somebody, kind of like when you see Roy Hunter and I talking together, and Roy and I have been friends for many years, completely different approaches, and yet we're meeting the needs of our particular client. And I think it's important to realize that you're going to become a great hypnotist, or you already are a great hypnotist, not because you're emulating somebody else's style, but because you're taking the bits and pieces that you learn along the way from great teachers, and great books, and great resources, and great experiences. And you're applying them in the context of the way that makes you the best you can be. And it's always great to hear, when John is sharing, and I notice how many things we really do differently. And in some ways, we're almost the antithesis of each other. And yet, because of that, we work so well together. Scott, you have any thoughts on that? Because you've seen John and I work well together for 10 years plus.
Well, obviously, you look at what you guys did at HypnoThoughts Live 2 years ago, but I've seen you guys before that. The Dallas Hypnosis Conference, I think, was the first time I ever saw, and it wasn't anything formal, it just sort of happened. I think that was the first time I ever saw you guys actually interacting in front of a room together. But I've seen you guys do that a number of times. To me, you guys obviously have chemistry there, and that's great and wonderful. But to me, I think the conversations you guys have behind the scenes are way more interesting, like you were saying, like you have with Roy, because there's a foundation of respect, and then an understanding that there's a dozen or a million different ways to get great results. And so you guys just bantering off the way you guys do it, I think, is one of my favorite things about talking to hypnotists. It's why we do this the first Sunday of every month, so that we can listen to other hypnotists who do things their ways. So the idea of you doing lightning round, because you know John, we all know John, you know John best. The idea of you doing lightning round questions on John right now sounds really exciting to me, because I think you're going to hit pointed questions that are going to force him to share quick nuggets of just awesome insights into what makes John work and what makes his processes go so well.
So Scott, you be the timer. You're the 30-second timer. If John goes over,
second. I gotta get an app out.
I should study for this.
It's okay. That's why it's a pop quiz.
Okay.
All right. Each question, I ask a question, and you got 30 seconds. By the way, John's going to hypnotize us here in a little while. He's going to go through a hypnotic process, and that's going to be just awesome. I remember the first time John and I ever did a stage show together. It was in Las Vegas in 2007, and we were performing together. And it was the first time we had performed together. It was the first time we did a two-man show. And so John goes into this induction, and I'm standing there on the edge of the stage, and I was going out myself. So it was kind of fun. But you'll love being the person who gets to experience John guiding you through the process. All right. So John, are you ready for your speed rounds here?
Yeah, I remember that story too. There was one night we worked together, and I went into hypnosis as we split the induction up, and I just froze like a statue because I was finished with my portion. You poked me, I jumped, and so did the whole audience. That was a lot of fun. I came back out of hypnosis. The whole audience went, it was just like you could never rehearse that. The whole audience was just amazing that night. Planet Hollywood.
By the way, one of the questions I often get is, do you ever go into hypnosis yourself? And the answer to that is, if you're a good hypnotist, yes. I think self-hypnosis and going, Ernest Rossi described hypnosis as belly button to belly button communication. That was his metaphor. And what he really meant was that we share trance with our clients. And I think that's real important. All right. Are you the timekeeper, Scott? You're ready here? All right. Question number one, John. What is the strangest, oddest, most bizarre, or weirdest clinical session that anyone came to see you for, and what happened?
I had somebody bring their child. He was, I don't know how I can put this, I'll try and be medical about it. He was defecating in bed when he was sleeping, unlike bedwetters. He was doing worse, sort of. And I got him to stop doing that. And today the man is a lawyer.
There you go.
And it's not something anybody ever taught me, or how do you even handle that? But I remember doing a pediatric session with him, and his life, he's married, he's got kids. I mean, his whole life went around.
You taught him how to shit on other people, and he became a lawyer. Awesome.
30 seconds.
I knew we'd get right to the heart of the matter here with the speed round questions. All right, John Simone, what if you're working with somebody and they can't go into hypnosis? They're having a hard time. It's something they're not responding to.
First of all, I want to laugh at that question because I don't believe anybody can't be hypnotized. I think everybody can. I recently had a show in Pittsburgh over the summer, and I had a young lady with Down syndrome come up into the show, and she was great. She went right into hypnosis, and she had a pretty severe case of it. Like, she wasn't even audible when I spoke to her later on after the show. You couldn't really understand what she was saying, and yet she was great, because I was always told you couldn't do that, and I don't believe in what can be done and what can't be done. So generally, if somebody is giving me a hard time going into hypnosis, I simply tell them, let's use a different approach, except I'll simply be your guide as a hypnotist to get you into your own hypnosis. You'll be your own hypnotist.
30 seconds. All right. This is working out well. Watch Scott because he's got that final 5 seconds.
I'll give you a 5-second countdown.
That's pretty awesome. All right. So you keep your eye on Scott. That's great. We're just kind of going for the.
I like this lightning round.
Yeah,
this might be a thing that we start doing.
We should start going with the lightning round. That's it seems more entertaining than my panda, which is getting old, or my new toy, which is my pink elephant. John Cerbone, Chicago pizza or New York pizza?
I like New York. You like Chicago. I like both of them, actually. It's great. I just don't understand cornmeal and pizza, but we've had that conversation.
All right, that was less than 30 seconds. Awesome. Can you harm yourself or harm your subconscious mind in the hands of a poor hypnotist?
Please repeat.
Can you harm your subconscious mind in the hands of a poorly trained hypnotist?
I can't say you would harm your subconscious mind, but I've seen stage hypnotists have people on a stage abreact and not know what to do about it, where I've had to step in and fix the abreaction because I'm in the audience, and they're not trained properly to handle an abreaction, which generally doesn't happen in a private session. I've really never seen one in a private session, but I have in a stage show. So it's a matter of remaining cool and doing what you have to do and not panicking. It's the old get smart thing. I'll tell you when it's time to panic, you know?
What is the greatest success you've had in hypnosis? In other words, of all the clients you've worked with over the years, which one do you look back on and say, wow, I'm glad I had the opportunity to work with that person? What was the outcome?
I love working with all the adults and seeing people who are smoking 5 and 6 packs of cigarettes in some cases for decades get off cigarettes. I remember helping an elderly lady get off cigarettes who had lit the bed on fire, and the fire captain came after 8 trips and said, we're not coming back here anymore, get her off the cigarettes. But I love doing pediatric hypnosis because kids are easy. This is broken, let's fix it, let me go out and play. So I love working with kids.
I like the speed round stuff too. Anyone has a question, Scott will read it because I'm not looking in the chat room.
There is one.
Scott.
Jeff asked, John, do you use speed trance when doing therapeutic hypnosis?
In sessions 2, 3, and 4, if I'm doing them, yes. Or sometimes if you're doing a session with a kid. Mommy, I'm afraid to get hypnotized. Can you hypnotize Mommy first? I put Mommy out, then I'll do something progressive relaxation or some multiple induction with the kid to get the child into hypnosis, because Mommy or Daddy went into hypnosis, it can't be too bad. So sometimes I'll do that as well. But for an adult, sessions 2, 3, 4, and 5, or say they tell me some other issue. It just occurs to me, I'm coming out of hypnosis, and here's 2 other things. Put them back out, hit them with suggestions, go on with your life.
Time.
You just said something that I wanted to ask you about earlier that I think you use a lot of progressive muscle relaxation. So do I. That's one of the common things that we share. I love PMR. A lot of people think that progressive muscle relaxation is not necessarily a good induction strategy or even a modern induction strategy. Why do you use progressive muscle relaxation, and do you find it to be effective?
A, because it works, and B, because people are carrying way, way too much body stress. And if you live in the Northeast or in any other big city in America or anywhere in the world where it's a high-stress city, the idea is to take the stress down in a way that's viable. Some people, because they're hyper-analytical, will not relax that way. I learned that with a nurse from a psychiatric unit, and I made up a bedtime day's end induction, which is in my first book, about turning pages in a book at bedtime and dropping the book and going into hypnosis, because that's the only time she was able to relax.
Awesome. What was the craziest thing that ever happened to you in a stage hypnosis show?
Everything from reactions I don't expect. One time I was doing a stage show for a major media mogul who's on major talent television shows as a guest judge on there. And I said to this young lady in the show at his mansion, where I was doing this show, I said, you'll come on to the most attractive man in the room. And she leapt up off the chair, wrapped her ankles around my ankles, put me in a bear hug from the side and stuck her tongue in my ear. And I was trying to not laugh and get her to stop doing it, but I was laughing so hard I didn't get her to stop for like 2 minutes, 3 minutes, which is really a long time in front of an audience.
A long time.
Yeah, but not the worst thing that ever happened to me. Go ahead.
When was the last time you turned down a gig?
I do it when it's either inappropriate or when, you mean a stage gig?
Yeah.
Or a session. A stage gig, Some of these people are calling me up and they want shows for $50, or they want me to come in and do something where it's, I mean, I've worked in rainstorms, I've worked in snowstorms that come down on your head outdoors when it's winter. I have worked in windstorms with biting cold winds. I have worked through all kinds of stuff, and it becomes, I'm like a force of nature, I'm told. People tell me you're unstoppable. But I've turned down gigs if people come in with like really low offers and it's insulting.
Time.
How do you make post-hypnotic suggestions stick? I've always said that all hypnosis suggestions are really post.
Wait, before you do that one, on topic, a follow-up question. When was the first time you turned down a gig? When was the first time you felt comfortable doing that?
Basically on some of these job sites where people are telling me I need a 20-minute stage show and we have no budget, but if it's a charity event, I'll go in and do it if it's fighting a disease or helping sick kids or something. I've done a lot of fundraising events for cancer organizations and for sick children, and that I'll do for free occasionally. I'll go in there and do that because it's helping children.
You know, that's one of the things that really makes you an excellent person as well, is that while you do it to get paid, you're also more than willing to do it when somebody has a legitimate need, simply because you're a good person, and that is awesome. That's one of the hallmarks.
Bless. Thank you.
All right, let me ask you a question related to that. Is it possible to do a 20-minute stage hypnosis show?
Yes, we did one at SundayLIVE, and we actually videoed it, and all you do is a speed induction, get everybody out really quick, get them out really deep, and then just have them do stuff. I do street hypnosis like that all the time. I was doing that in 3-minute increments in the class I just finished teaching today. You put somebody out and you do a series of street hypnosis routines. A street hypnosis show is a very short, very abridged stage show. And I did it with several of the people in here, and they were thrilled to see me do it, and they want to learn more about it. So I may be teaching classes on instant speed hypnosis shows at some point. Some of these people are willing to come back from as far away as California to New York City.
And by the way, we did record that, how to do a 20-minute stage hypnosis class, and I forgot about that. It's actually on the subliminalscience.com website. Let me ask you a question about post-hypnotic suggestions, John. How do you make a hypnosis suggestion stick? In other words, I think a lot of hypnotists think, what if I give suggestions to quit smoking or lose weight or stop chasing cars or whatever the issue is, and they don't follow through? I mean, how do you make post-hypnotic suggestions stick?
The optimizing reinforcements that I have in my books, including power hypnosis, which is the most recent expanded version of that type of thing, is the idea that the suggestions become self-perpetuating. One of the ways to make them stick is auditory. Every sound you might hear from outside, car horns, sirens, car alarms, barking dogs, planes flying by, vague adult conversations in the street, sounds of children playing outside, or telephone sounds of any kind instantly reinforce the benefit and the adaptation of suggestions in your sessions. Every time you see a particular color, every time you see your watch, every time you shake your head yes or no.
Time.
Awesome. Every Sunday night, every first Sunday of the month, every first Sunday when it's not Wednesday, we get together to talk about hypnosis, to interview some awesome people, and to share some ideas. Tonight we're talking with the world-famous John Serbone from New York City, and it's always great to have him as a guest. Now, John, you wrote an excellent book, and I haven't asked you to plug the book yet, although I did mention that they can buy it for Amazon for $40, or they can buy it right above the chat box here for a whopping $9. The ebook version is on thehypnostore.com. In 30 seconds, what is this book about, and why is it different than other hypnosis books?
This is a paradigm shift into the future. If you read this book, I've had people who've been trained by some of the world's leading hypnotists of a previous generation, people who were trained by Ahrens, people who were trained by Erickson, who've told me this is the most intense hypnosis book they've ever read. And one of the reasons I wrote this book is to take this stuff into the future, the 21st century, the 22nd century, and beyond. The idea is to get the hypnosis sessions to stick and work better, to use your terms from a couple of seconds ago. The idea is to make this stuff work like it's never worked before by getting the subconscious mind as an ally. What if the issue or situation never existed in the first place? What if it was worked out 25 years ago and they've had a cigarette-free life for already 25 years? What if at some future moment they're stepping into right now, they are solidly, foundationally changed to a thinner, healthier person or a smoke-free person? So it's the kind of a thing where it's making the mind work in their favor unstoppably and permanently and adaptively.
All right, one more speed round question. 15 minutes of hypnosis is like 8 hours of sleep. True or false?
I tell them a few minutes of hypnosis is like a few hours worth of sleep. So yes, I would say that's pretty close to being true. It might vary from person to person, but it is. So I can tell somebody, and at the end of my sessions, I tend to do this. You've had a 9-hour nap and a 7-hour back and foot rub. Man, are you feeling better than you have in the last 10 or 15 years of your life? You're on top of the world. Let's face it, who doesn't like a 9-hour nap and a 7-hour back and foot rub? So you're giving them that benefit, and they feel that way through suggestion.
There you go. Awesome. Scott, any profound questions for John that I missed? Any chat room people? Do you guys have some profound questions for John that I missed?
I got distracted by my timing duties, to be honest. And I thought you had the questions that I wanted to know you actually did ask. Let's see. Give me a second. I got distracted by my timing.
Richard loves to put me on the spot like this. Richard loves to put me on the spot like this. He always asks me questions or does something like this that I don't expect. Like he's asked me to invent introductions in front of an audience. This wax off thing in like 2007 or 8 in Las Vegas. What about the Karate Kid? I had to make up this induction in front of like 18 or 25 people who were ever there. And I did it ice cold right in front of everybody. So he loves to put me on the spot like this. It just makes me better at what I do. I'm sorry, Scott. Please continue.
No, that's fine. Believe me, I know Richard likes putting both of us on the spot. It's just one of the many services he offers.
Free of charge.
I'm the Chris Wallace of hypnosis.
Shall we do a hypnosis demonstration? Shall we just put John on the spot and do that?
Yeah, John, guide us through an awesome trance process because you're great at it. So help us to feel incredible. To learn
9 minutes.
How many minutes to make it? 9? 9 minutes. Okay, 9. 9. Between 8 and 10. I got you. All right, so tell me when the clock starts. Give me the old Norton. We're on the air, you know?
Whenever we do this, Scott and I turn our microphone and our camera off. That's so that we're not a distraction because, you know, I tend to have distracting toys around. But we're right here, so we didn't go anywhere. So we'll just magically reappear in 9 minutes. So
all right.
You're up.
I know when we're ready. You ready now?
We're ready now.
Close your eyes and take a deep and soothing breath of calming, healing, relaxation. And as you do and fill your lungs, visualize, sense, picture, notice, imagine, or truly know that you are inhaling the equivalent of life force energy. Life force energy to perpetuate your life, balance your heart, your mind, your health, your body, the core of who you are, into the very best that you can be inside and out. And as you exhale that breath slowly and calmly, as one breath flows down slowly and easily into the next, visualize, sense, picture, notice, imagine, or beyond faith and belief, simply now know. You are inhaling the equivalent of golden white sunshine light to fill your lungs, to fill your heart, to fill your mind, to fill your body with the greatest journey of all, the journey back to you. As you breathe slowly and expand this light, visualize this light relaxing your entire body from the top of your head down to the soles of your feet, relaxing every aspect of who you are, inside as well as outside, balancing your body and restoring harmony, placing light into places once inhibited by shadow, for no shadow can ever stand up to the light. Feel your body beginning to harmonize and moving that light through your lungs, ever expanding, through your breathing, ever expanding, through your mind and brain, ever expanding, throughout your body, locating that light within places that might need it most, whether emotional, whether physical, whether mental, whether spiritual, harmonizing, healing, balancing, restoring, relaxing, motivating, empowering, re-energizing anything and everything you might need, desire, create, or passionately need to manifest in the very best of ways. And in any place where you might be experiencing a blockage or a disharmony in any way, like the iris of a camera opening, release, relax, allow, drifting, floating, dreaming, deeper and further down. And as if almost inspired by a future you, some aspect further along in a perfect timeline of time into your future, an ultimate masterpiece chapter living you. Allow for a moment as you breathe slowly in and out, inhaling life force, balance, and the universe around you to restore you, to relax you, and to harmonize you in the very best of ways. Only the very best inspiration, wisdom, guidance, unconditional love, release, forgiveness, harmony, harmonization, guided by a better knowing, wiser, more balanced, more restored you. Take a deep breath in. Let it out super slow. Release, relax, rest, restore, float, drift, dream, know better. Beyond procrastination, now released into the past chapter of your life. You simply now are, you simply now live, you simply now do, in the finest of ways, for you, motivating a more polished life, a more relaxed and calmer you, a more restored you, a more balanced you, a more achieving you, a more calm you, a more enjoyable you, a more in the moment you, a more trusting you, and any other word beyond those words that inspire and empower, and beyond those concepts, and beyond what those words mean, ever onward, so too now you are, and so too now you remain. Keep breathing, relaxing, releasing, restoring. And in this place, a dynamic energy shift in your mind, as if the environment around you is changing, upgrading, healing, balancing, and restoring you in the very best of ways. As your greatest expectations, without limit, without boundary, without blockage, limits, boundaries, and blockages now dissolving, generating a more peaceful, harmonized, healed, and restful you, balancing you, relaxing you, releasing tension from your feet and your shoulders and your back, your hands, and all places in your life where resistance causes tension. Relaxing and releasing resistance of any emotion, thought, or feeling ever known or unknown to you, almost as if you've been doing this process for so many years, almost as if this master of life from the future that you are is now inspiring you in the very best of ways to become only your very best, to trust in your life in the finest of ways, to live better, to laugh more, to shine light for not only yourself, but for the people you love most especially yourself. In your mind, moving through your life, like a river running down the side of a mountain in the spring, beyond, through, over, and beyond any and all barriers, to wherever it is you need to be, for the guidance that you seek, as if guided by a master from on high, into the future, into the now, into the moment that generates that future, into the you that you've always desired to be. In this moment, your inspiration, you allow to be empowered and unstoppable, adaptive, flowing, creative, harmonizing. In this moment, as if inhaling light through your heart, take a breath through your chest now. And expand that sunlight that is your heart into a future moment of time where all things are resolving, barriers dissolving, evaporating, the lessons of your life easier learned, choosing to learn from joy, releasing pain, choosing to learn from love and harmony, and replacing obstacles in your life once there, now forgiven, now released into a past chapter of your life, allowing your best benefits to flow to the surface, like a spring bubbling up from the ground, and like a boulder in a fast-running stream of water. From now on, you embrace the knowledge, the knowing, the glowing knowledge and knowingness that you are allowing the adversity of your life, wherever it may be, to flow around your body, your mind, your emotions, your life, your essence, your core, and your harmony now. And as it flows around you like a boulder in the stream, there forever, so too are you polished by the experience, loving the challenges, loving you, releasing your resistance to releasing your resistance, resistance-free, harmony as you be and become and remain now and forever, a being of higher light, shining light in the world all around, shining light into your life in the places of shadow, releasing all things no longer needed, and as released, embracing your future as never before. And the greatest potentials that you have reside within your mind now an ally to become the best that you can ever be. As you sleep peacefully tonight, you take slow and deep steady breath to put yourself to sleep, resting peacefully through the evening into the brightest best tomorrow you can generate, relaxing in the rhythm of knowledge and wisdom, the mastery of a better you, rising up to the surface unbeatably. All issues dissolved and resolved as if 20 years ago, 30 years ago, eons ago, into the past. All harmonization within you now your own, to love your life, to love yourself, to love your loved ones, in spite of challenges, filling yourself with love, a source of light, a beacon of light into all shadows, a shining light in the world for yourself and for those you love most especially yourself. Forever and always you remain, and remind yourself of these moments by simply taking 4 or 5 slow and steady deep breaths, releasing the minutia and rising up to the top unbeatably, both now, always, and forever, in ways known and unknown, knowing you will be there, telling yourself the truth. Your mighty inner hero, the part of you that is dynamic and forever, has now risen to the surface, once and for all, resolving, dissolving, and flowing beyond, because of, in spite of all challenges, problem-free, challenge-oriented now for the rest of your life, free of struggling, free of trying, simply being, at your best, both now and forever, and always. In this moment, make this your own. In this moment, become one with this. In this moment, this is your ability and your talent right now. In this moment, you rise above any challenge in a greater harmony, a greater life force, a greater light, for now, for always, and forever, in the greatest of ways. So be it. As I count from 1 to 5, come back to the room only when you're ready. I feel absolutely fabulous in this moment, in your imagination, in your mind, in this glowing, knowing knowledge, transformed to the very best you can ever be, even beyond expectations or thought. 1, arising to a better you. 2, feeling on top of the world and better than you have in years, meant to be here living your purpose. 3, halfway back, feeling better than you have in years, truly transformed and living at a higher potential, a higher inspiration, a better you. 4, like you've been doing this your whole life, great on the inside, fabulous on the outside, awesome, better than expected, better than excellent, living your dreams. And 5, opening your eyes, back to the room, forever and always.
A round of applause in the chat room with some 3s here for John. The way we clap in the chat room is 3s, so 3, 3, 3, 3, 3 for John. By the way, the one thing I've probably learned from John more than anyone else is the value in being overly optimistically, positively wonderful from start to finish. And I think that that is probably what separates John from many other hypnotists, is his ability to start with a positive suggestion and end with a positive suggestion and compound those literally hundreds of times during a 10-minute session. So that's certainly one of the things I've appreciated really learning to increase my skill level on. So thank you very much, John. Hey, while you were doing that, a lot of people have questions in the chat room, so we're going to throw more questions at you. Is that all right, John?
That's fine with me. Shoot away.
You or me, Richard? Who's reading?
Scott, why don't you read?
All right, I'll read them. Let's see. Sorry, I have to scroll now.
Scott,
Let's see. There we go. How far in advance do you write your scripts for your clients? And sometimes when you've written that script and you've been talking with the client, by the time the client shows up, they've had new insights or maybe changed their mind about how things work and stuff like that, or change what they really want to work on. What percentage of the time are you putting in a lot of work and then they come in and they've changed their mind?
Most of the time I do a very thorough intake, and when they come in here, I'm really prepared and I know exactly what I need to know. I can tell you there's only been a handful of times in all these years where somebody's changed their mind. It's maybe 3 times in my entire career, because I work out of the idea of asking for 5 very short, simple sentences of weak spots.
Hey, where'd he go?
We lost him.
Oh my gosh!
He asks 5 questions that we'll never learn about.
No, I'll tell him to log back in. He probably will.
Yeah, he'll probably log back in just a second.
I'll call him. Will you do that?
While you call him, I'll just talk to our lovely live audience. Guys, I'm glad we're back on this. Some of you weren't ready to go and didn't get here right at the top of the hour, which is just fine. But just to know, a quick schedule change. We're back on Sundays, as you see. We're back live, as you see. And we're going to do the first Sunday of every month as a 1.5 hour. This week, this month, we're just going to have one guest, but in the future, we want to have multiple guests. We think that makes for a really, really fun Sunday night. So, and I also just came up with another idea. We are going to come up with our Sunday 7. We're going to have the same 7 questions every time that we're going to ask, and they're going to be prepared for them. So, John, welcome back. We missed you.
Yeah, something kicked me off. I don't know what happened.
I blame Richard.
By the way, you don't need to call me back when you see you missed a call from me.
Yeah, well, went this way. It was easier. Go ahead.
All right, so the next question was, if you were to reflect backwards, what advice would you give yourself as a new hypnotist? And what have you learned in the past recent few years that have changed the way you practice? I think those are great questions.
First of all, eat, breathe, and sleep this stuff. Give cards to every single human being, even if they don't seem to want them. If you're talking about hypnosis morning, noon, and night, do more demonstrations of hypnosis, so be good with that, even if you're new at hypnosis. Learn speed trance or some kind of concentration testing or something, suggestibility testing, and be able to do some really cool stuff. Lock somebody's eyes closed in a restaurant, in a clothing store, any place where you are. I've worked in hotel lobbies, Costco one time, I hypnotized somebody in the food section. The mall, I actually shot video on Time Warner TV in the mall. I've been thrown into some situations on TV with MTV where I was doing stuff on college campuses and dormitories. Be out there banging the drum. We have a tremendous service to offer people. What I would say to new hypnotists is make sure you have cards with you all the time. When I train a student, if they don't have cards with them, I want to know why. If you go to the beach and you're in a bathing suit, make sure you have cards with you. I don't care where you are. Make sure there's cards in your pocket or someplace to give somebody information about. And the second half of that question, please refresh me.
Anything that in the past couple of years, any big changes to your perspective?
Lately, I'm seeing people under way too much stress, and I'm seeing people come in for sessions that really have some major anger stuff going on. I don't know if that's the economy or changes in the way people are relating to each other. I also see that some of the younger people are, I don't know, they're very dependent so much on technology that the communication skills are off and things along that line. And sometimes they don't clearly express what they mean when they want a session. So the idea is just to do thorough intakes with the people. And remember, it's about getting into their head, not being in your head. Don't give them what you think they need. Give them what they're telling you they're asking you for. Does that make any sense?
That makes a ton of sense. First, Heather in the chat room, Pierre-Etienne Vernier removed 99% of non-guards on contact when Richard wasn't here that week. Even better than the 90 you gave him credit for. And John, right before you got disconnected, you were saying you had 5 questions you asked all the clients. What are the 5 questions you ask your clients?
I asked them for 5 short and simple sentences of weak spots. What's going on? What's not going on? What should be going on? But keep it what we used to call in grammar school sentence fragments. Some clients get a little iffy with me and they say, I'm going to give you 10 paragraphs to read. I don't want 10 paragraphs to read. Do not send me 10 paragraphs. If you're coming in here, you're smoking. You smoke on the phone. You smoke in the car. You smoke at the workplace, outside the workplace. I've had people tell me some really weird stuff about smoking. I smoke in the shower. I love that one. How do you smoke in a shower and keep the cigarette going? And without ashes falling on parts of your body you would rather not burn. I don't get that, but people have told me. I did sessions, another weird session, because you would ask me that before. I did a session many years ago with this couple, and every other word was a 4-letter one. And they insisted I do the session that way. Somewhere there's tapes floating around that I made for them with the F word and different other words, because this is the way I can speak to them. It's the only way I can relate to them. But basically, I asked them for that. Sentence number 6 is the clincher. Was there some, for a smoker, how many years have you been, what age did you begin smoking is the question for a smoker. For a weight loss person, how many pounds are you looking to release? I never work with 0s and 5s. I work with other numbers because people have tried to lose 10 and 15 pounds. Nobody's tried to drop 16 or 14 pounds. You take the blockage out of it by changing the number. If it's some kind of a person who had a trauma, tell me what the traumatic event was that caused this feeling to happen in your life so we can turn it around. Public speaking is a big one when you're working with fears, for example. You know, what public speaking trauma did you have? Did something go wrong? You know, with public speaking, it's actually pretty easy. I used to teach college as an undergraduate teaching assistant, and my professors were running off to school, not from school rather, to Broadway shows and TV shows and commercials. And I actually taught as an undergraduate, as a professor, sort of. I covered a lot of classes back then. So the idea is just to get them to understand that there are people in the audience, everybody in the audience wants them to succeed. So the idea is to getting that team building thing going. Everyone is a smoker. Your whole family, your friends are rooting for you to do this. You know, the better people in your life want you to break through with this. They want you healthy. They want you around. They love you. So the idea is just to get that and pivot it in such a way where it's going to work. So I look for those insights to get in there. And then from that, I can build a session with a person. That's how I do it.
Excellent. Heather wants to know what kind of, you said give your cards to everybody. What do your business cards say? Should it look like an ad? Should it look like a professional business card? What's your business card?
John followed my advice on business cards. Show him your business card. Hold it up in the air, John. I got it in my pocket. I'm sitting down. Give me a second. I'm going to fish this one out. But I have some that just have my name on it and a picture of me, because if they look at this in 6 months, they're going to go, who's that scary guy? And it's this, you know. And this talks about sessions and my website and some stuff that I do on here, shows and clinical stuff. And I just direct them to the website so they can read even more about what I do. And I like stuff to be kind of high-end. I have a business card of mine. Notice my picture is giant, John's picture is giant, and the reason why is real simple. People want to see who they're going to be dealing with, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. Put your picture on your business card.
Yeah, little magic trick there for you. But basically, put your picture on the card so they know who they're talking to, what do you look like, and plus they can scare the kids on Halloween.
Awesome. Looks like we lost Scott.
I went to go get my business card.
Oh, good.
Your business card, Scott.
And my business card does not have a picture on it. My business card is very boring.
You have Dan Paris's business card.
Well, yeah, this is Dan's. So this is from the Newport Clinic. Mine, we ran out of mine at the last meetup, so I just grabbed Dan's. But this is Dan's business card. I have more. I just had to go get it. It would take too long. But these are the nice, fancy Moo cards that are multicolored and thick. I always believe, yeah, I believe it's very important, like American Psycho, to have a quality business card. You don't need to go crazy and make it an art project, but you don't want to hand them something and then it says free at vistaprints.com on your card, because you don't want your card to be an ad for someone else, and you don't want your card to be cheap and generic looking, because then when someone receives your card, they're like, oh, cheap and generic card, this must be a cheap and generic person. So it doesn't need to be an art project. But it needs to have some class to it. It needs to have some quality to it. And it needs to tell a story of what you do. This card is intentionally boring because this card is designed to work with clinical directors of drug rehab centers. So the contact information is very big. Dan, I'm giving away your email address. But yeah, the idea of this is these are the cards that the clinical directors can grab from their, from their pile that they have and get our information easily. So that's why we do ours. But I don't mind the pictures one. It's a different style for a different thing.
Awesome. All right, so this is our new format. Every Sunday night on the first Sunday of the month, the rest of the Sundays we're not doing anything. Well, next Sunday I'm actually doing a class on scripting. There's actually a link above here if you're interested in that. Maybe I'll even interview John for part of that. Yeah, add it to the video. But anyway, John, I want to thank you for all of your generous time tonight and for everybody in the chat room for participating tonight.
By the way, as I always say, if there's people you want us to interview, ask us. And I have a challenge for us. I want us, not just Richard and I, us as a community, I want us to come up with 7 great hypnosis questions that are the lightning round questions. And we ask every hypnotist the same 7 questions fast every time we do this. So what are the things you want to know from every hypnotist on Earth and the most important, famous, fancy, hot topic hypnotist on Earth? We're going to get them here and we're going to ask them, what do you want to know? Let's get that going as a conversation. Oh, I don't know, on hypnothoughts.com. That seems like a free place to discuss things. Go to hypnothoughts.com and let's talk about that.
It's like Facebook without the political crap.
It's just like Facebook, but we don't have to find out who you're voting for.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just a crazy thought. We could actually talk about hypnosis for a while. That's what I got.
Awesome. John Serbone, thank you very much. A round of 3s in the chat room for Mr. Serbone tonight.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. This is a nice 12-plus hour day for me. So, you know, you're getting me at like 12-plus hours here now. This is a good day.
Also, the other thing is you have a black or a dark-colored couch and a black shirt on, so it's kind of like what happens if the weather girl wears green.
It's floating heads.
I'm going for that Max from the set from the 80s, you know?
Right. All right, we love you, John. We love you, chat room. We love you, Skippy. And everyone have a great night.
Have a good night, everybody.
Same channel, same time next month, the first Sunday of every month.